your men can have love for the truckie. Beautiful minds, but we love getting ugly. Risk takers with a clover, man, we love getting lucky. You run, we chase fire, I love when it ducks me. Tones go off, house watch, read the address out. 1075, get up off the magic couch. 500 gallons prepared for the baddest drought. Who else you want on the way when disaster's out? Can't even get a little bit rattled when you enter with exit apparel. Mayday, member down, they'll drag you. You won't get this from every Tom, Dick, and Harold, but here's a view from the top floor with Mickey Farrell.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of A View from the Top Floor. If you didn't get a chance to check out episode 44, the first half of the conversation with Pete, make sure you go back and listen to last week's episode first. That said, if you enjoyed last week's episode, you're absolutely going to love this week's episode. Pete is a dear friend of mine, probably one of my biggest mentors in life, and I'm just so happy I get a chance to share him with all of you. So that said, no further ado, Pete Partridge, Rescue Company 1, SOC Battalion Chief, Newark, New Jersey.
I always talk about the fact that social media does not take into account the whole picture. Social media does not take into account the whole operation. So, you know, guys don't necessarily know how different things fit in, you know, and they tend to think about, okay, I'm going to be an expert in forcing doors. Okay, that's a good thing to be, but then what?
Well, it goes back
What's
to
your move after that?
But it goes back to your engine analogy, right? If you're a mechanic, you have to know how to build that engine, every part,
Right.
every piece, beginning to end, to be able to apply your skills to
Yeah.
fix the engine when something's wrong, right? But you have to study it. But if you take short clips and just read, okay, this is how you put the alternator in, but then you maybe miss the post on the spark plugs, but then you go to the transmission, right?
Yeah.
Something's missing. There's a piece missing. And when you lose that piece, that's when dominoes go the wrong way.
Absolutely. And guys, you know, are, in my opinion, very weak on studying the overall picture of the fire service. I really believe that. I think that there's just too much neglect out there. And this is why I always say social media won't cut it. To be a true student, it's social media, yeah, but it's learning to weed out the bullshit from the good stuff. It's classes, yeah, but learning about how to select a good class with a good instructor versus bullshit books.
And it's
Good
also
books
applying
versus
social
bullshit.
media to the book.
Right.
You can read Vinnie Dumb's Collapse of Burning Buildings, then go on YouTube and watch the exact thing you just read.
Yeah,
Watch that building now collapse in real time.
yeah.
Commit yourself to doing that. No one's reading the book. They're just going to the video. You have to know a little bit of theory behind everything we do.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm always harping on. I'm always harping on this. Guys are not really students of the job. They're just not really students of the job.
They're reading the cliff notes.
They think they are, but they're not. And it takes time, and it's a years-long process. But I think that, again, talking about societal norms and the fire service being a microcosm of society, we're in an age of instant gratification. We're in an age of everybody gets a trophy for, you know, showing up. We're in an age of, I can't wait 10 years to call myself a well-rounded student of the fire service. I need to be able to do that in 2 years, 3 years. You know, by the time I'm off probation, I want to be rocking and rolling, you know. Well, that ain't it. You know, you don't learn how to be a doctor in 2 years. Well, you don't learn how to be a firefighter in 2 years, although they're vastly different professions, but the analogy is there. You know, there's just too much to know. There's too much knowledge, and you're not going to master it in a short time. And a huge, huge part of that is experience, which, circling back to what we were talking about earlier, there's not a lot of these days. So it's going to take you much longer to accrue that experience than it ever did, you know, during the war years, for example. You know, it's going to be, I have a big problem with, you know, in most cities, you can promote within 3 to 5 years of coming on the job. And during the war years, for busy departments, that might have been valid. For some departments, it was never valid. And I think now it's almost never valid because there's just not enough experience. And you wind up being a boss who has nothing to back up his whatever knowledge he has or whatever he did to pass the test, has really no practical experience to back that up.
Do you think that understanding the theory of the job without the experience is success in leadership or even success on the fire ground?
I think it goes a long way, but I'll give you an example because I started on the volunteers before I went on the job. And at that time, the department I was volunteering was a very progressive, pro-education department. It was at that time. And we had guys that even though they were volunteers, they were buying books, they were reading them, they were going to classes. A lot of them were like me. They were buffs. They were going places to pick guys' brains and see what was going on. And we had a tremendous body of theoretical knowledge, a tremendous body of theoretical knowledge. And we were even leaders in the field in certain things, large diameter hose and rope work and stuff like that. But we'd go to a fire and we'd basically make the right moves. We'd get the job done. But then later I went on the job, looking back at the fires I went to in the volleys before I was on the job. I'm like, wow, holy shit. There was a big knowledge gap there. I had all the theory, the book knowledge, the class knowledge and everything like that, but I didn't have the practical experience and I didn't know this, that, or the other thing. So it's much better to have that huge body of theoretical knowledge than to have nothing at all, right? It's much, much better to still do the studying, still go to the classes and everything like that than to not do that. But yeah, lack of practical experience will tell every time, you know?
Yeah. I started the volunteers as well. And looking back, like you just said, when you start to gain some experience beyond that in life,
Yeah.
I look back at some of those fires and be like, I cannot believe we did that. How did we not get killed trying to do that? So like, it's almost a dangerous concept where you could read all this theory, and then when you go to try to apply it, if everyone you're working with is not studying the same theory, well, that's when problems can arise. When you're going to fires with guys that are not students of the game, they don't have experience. They may have a little bit more experience than you, but just enough to get them killed.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
So what I like is, you know, a lot of guys I know will call me up and pick my brain. Not that I'm particularly great or that I'm particularly a fountain of wisdom, but at least I've been to some fires, right? So I like it when guys call me up and they say, well, let me ask you something. Because theoretically, this, that, and the other thing. And then I can say, yeah, but, right? And so many, again, the instant gratification. So many guys today want to be shown a chart, A, B, C, D.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is how, for every situation, they want to be told A, B, C, D, but it's not that simple. So I start telling guys, yeah, but what if this? What if that? This is why you have to be a student, because it's just not cut and dry. And there really are variables. There just are. I know that a lot of guys out there don't want to hear that. They don't like that. But when guys call me up and pick my brain, at least I'm able to say, well, you know, a couple times I saw this, that, or the other thing happen. And, you know, you got to be ready for that. And here's how you approach that, and so on and so forth. So I always advise everybody, find yourself a good, experienced mentor, and that's going to vary from place to place. But even if you have to travel, I mean, I used to be a huge buff in your job, you know, and I was very, very fortunate to be able to ride with some of the busiest premier companies in your job during the war years. And I learned so much from those guys. They were willing to share with them. They were willing to put up with the pain in the ass kid from Jersey. You know, they were willing to share that knowledge. And I learned so much from those guys.
Would you take things from the days of riding and bring it back to Newark?
I would, yeah.
And would guys be willing to listen to you, or they're like, he's over hanging out in the city again?
Well, you learn the hard way that you don't necessarily say where it came from, because I've had it both ways, you know. Well, yeah, well, you know, this ain't New York and this, that, and the other. But I've also had it where, well, what if we do this? Well, let's, try it or whatever. Or just fucking do something. Oh, where'd you get that?
Yeah. You let your tools do your talking, right?
Yeah.
Is there something that stands out that you remember picking up from a guy at a certain company and then applying it at a fire in Newark?
I got a lot of stuff on Through the Lock from guys in your job, which Newark was never particularly big on,
Yeah.
And I got a lot of stuff, just general tactical stuff, but I got a lot of stuff on roof work. I got a lot of stuff on tenements. It was I can't remember all the individual guys that told me individual things, but years of hanging out in different places. And that's not to put down Newark. I mean, right now it sounds like, I'm getting all my knowledge from across the river, but not so. Newark had very talented guys too. And I learned a ton from them. But my point is, no matter where you work, if you go other places, you can learn from people.
Yeah.
So I go over to the Bronx or Harlem, I learn from those guys. But guess what? If they came over to Newark, maybe they're going to pick up something too, because Newark is no slouch department.
Yeah, by any means. Newark, it's funny, you're a buff of my job, and I've always studied the Newark Fire Department. I've always watched them afar, and I've always truly, truly admired the Newark Fire Department, especially from your generation. Those are the old VHS types that used to come around, the buffs.
Yeah.
I used to watch those, and every time there was a Newark one, I would watch it 10 times, and then another city would pop up, fast forward to that city, and then go back to the Bronx or Harlem. But it was always like when Newark was on, I would study it because I was so intrigued by it, because they were doing just as much work as any of the ghettos in New York City during those times, and there was really not a lot of coverage on it. There were some buffs, but there wasn't too many. And so when those fires did pop up, it was pretty cool to see what you guys were doing. And I'm pretty certain that if I went back and looked at some of those videos, you're probably in them.
Guys from your job would come over and ride with me too.
Yeah.
And they did, one of the things that Newark always brought to the table, which would amaze guys from your job, is, holy shit, how did you do all that with so few guys?
Yeah.
Because Newark never had the type of, not on a regular basis. I mean, at different times, they had companies that were 1 in 5, but that comes and goes with the economy, or whatever's going on. But there's no minimum manning, and that's the key thing. So like if you're 1 in 2 or 1 in 3, you're 1 in 2 or 1 in 3. And we always used to say, we've been working miracles with 1 and 2. And that's one thing we brought to the table, in any discussion of tactics, is how to do things with not a lot of guys, how to prioritize what needs to be done. So I get flack sometimes as an instructor from guys who feel like, well, I'm coming from this big city where we have infinite resources. Well, I'm not, because we're short manpower. And I've worked in, a single engine where I've pulled up to, a super job with a rescue problem and 3 or 4 guys on the rig. Well, you got to start figuring some shit out, So what I tell guys is, don't approach these problems from the standpoint of how much staffing you have or don't have. Approach it from the standpoint of certain tasks have to be accomplished. Then it doesn't matter if you have 3 guys or 10 guys.
Yeah.
It's got to be done. You need to know what those tasks are, and you need to be able to look at a fire and start making priority decisions. And guys from your job would say to me, you got a truck with 4 guys, what do you do? Well, this is why maybe being a boss in my job in Newark is more difficult than being a boss in the FDNY, because we have to make more choices and we have to make more decisions. We have to figure this shit out on the spur of the moment. You pull up first due, you got fire out, 10 or 15 windows, and you got jumpers and hangers.
So in my class, Truck Intellect, it's just that, where I get the flack too when I would come in and teach a class to a smaller department. And I can see the senior guys, right? This guy, what does he know? He's got 6 guys on his rig. How can he relate to us? And it's exactly what you just said, is that, you have to understand where you fit in. And the analogy I use is that we've all played basketball at one point in our life, right? Either it's you played rec ball, travel ball, high school ball, college ball, or you went down to the park and shot hoops with your friends. Probably not too often you went down to the park and had 5-on-5 full court press, but you understood the game of basketball. So you could play 2-on-2, or if that next day you went down, it's 3-on-3, but you understand the game and where to pivot in the game to make the position, ultimately to score the basket. Firefighting, same thing. Understanding the game and where to pivot in the moment at those fires. That's firefighter IQ. And I think that why it's so important that we just don't dismiss this whole job as the blue collar job, because you have to study it. You have to have an IQ for it. You have to be the professor of it. So when you are the officer in Newark, you can pivot in the moment and say, you know what, this is done, this is done. I got to get that done. Hey, brother, go get that done, you know?
Right.
And if you have a good company, he's already doing that. He knows.
Right.
You know?
Or as the incident commander, you have to be able to have this checklist in your head and say, okay, there are, 7 or 8 truck company duties that have to be performed at every fire. And I know what they are in my head. And I know that right now my first due truck just pulled up with 4 guys on it. Okay. So if I see that their priority is interior search, somebody else got to get that outside vent or that topside ventilation, whatever it's going to be, eventually all these positions have to be covered. I get pissed off, when I hear guys like, oh, you always VIS, always this, always. No, that might not be the move at that particular fire. And I'm not saying, no, don't do that. No, that's a bad idea, bad move. It might not be the right move for that job. That's the thing,
That's interesting, yeah. So in the Newark Fire Department, did you guys have, like with us, we're so diligent and strict about our positioning. And I think that's what separates us from any other department in the world, because we have a playbook. I know where to be at any one of those buildings in that skyline for what position I'm riding in. I know where I have to be, and you make that position. Nothing stalls you from getting there. You have to do it.
Right.
Now, do you guys have the positions?
No, because you have an inside team and an outside team. And you know that the first due truck is normally responsible for the roof, that kind of stuff.
The first due truck is responsible for the roof?
Normally speaking. But here again, what are you going to do if you pull up and you got 5 people hanging out windows?
Let's use a scenario.
Second due truck. You know what I'm saying? This is where that variability comes into play. We know that we have an inside team and an outside team. We know that the first due truck is normally responsible for the roof,
The outside team, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But, so if I'm the chief standing out in front of this building and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, 2 guys just went in with the irons and they're doing the search and the aerial's going up to the roof. Second due truck will now get the floor above. When they get here, yada, yada, right? Or alternatively, we pulled up, there's huge fire. There's 3 buildings on fire. There's people jumping out of one of the exposures that already has fire coming in the back on 2 floors. Everything might be out the window. It might be like everything's got to go to that exposure. First line, truck's got to make those grabs, whatever. These are all things that only experience can teach you,
It teaches you where to fit in. Like you have to be able to pull up and say, boom, 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 go. And in your mind, and already be there 3 steps ahead of the game. And
Exactly.
as the chief, you got to be on the same page watching this. Okay, why didn't he get that? Listen, bro, go get that. Whatever that task is. But you have to understand what everyone's doing. Exactly. I find it interesting, though, that you guys don't really have a playbook set of rules where your company is going to do this company is going to do that. I'm the chief. I know what they're all doing. How do you know if it's not getting done almost? Because if everyone's not on the same page, how do you know if it's getting done or not?
Well, the first problem is that because of lack of staffing, we can't be organized to the degree that you are. We just can't be. I'll give you one example right off the bat. Our chauffeur's not hanging out on the turntable. You know, he's working. He's doing whatever his job is at that fire. He's going to the roof, or he's going in a window, or he's not hanging out on the turntable, right? We don't have an OV, right? We have an outside team, and they may OV, or they may force the back door, or whatever they got to do. They may go up a back porch and get in behind the fire or over, you know, but we don't have that kind of staffing where we can say it's a tenement. So the chauffeur's going to be here. The inside team's going to be here. The OV is going to be here. And we have every building that you have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, but we just can't be organized to that degree because we don't have that many people. And there can just be too many variables.
So the outside team, and we don't have to go down a rabbit hole. I just want to ask you a question. 2.5-story peak roof private dwelling, fires on the second floor bedroom. Is your outside team teaming up and going in, searching off a portable ladder, or are they going to cut the roof? I'm not talking the tactic. I'm saying as far as positioning, where are they going?
Normally, they're going to get the roof. In Newark, traditionally, searches are done from the interior and grabs are made from the interior. And I know that's going to upset a lot of people out there who believe in VEIS and everything like that, you know? But your job, and I made something of a study of this at one point, go through your medal day books, read the fucking write-ups on the rescues. How many of those people were grabbed on a VEIS? Most of them were grabbed from the interior.
My
right?
company made one today. My old company made one today.
Well, it's the same.
From the inside.
It's the same in Newark.
Yeah.
Most of the searches, most of the grabs are made from the interior. Now, if you know you got people trapped above the fire, you're going to make that move. If you can't get to them, you know, like a typical scenario in Newark might be, we got heavy fire on the first and second floor. We got people trapped on the third floor. Well, you're not getting to them from the front because the line's got to go in there and duke it out with the stairs and the hallway and everything like that. And you're not going to get caught up in that. So what are you going to do? You're going to get around the back and look for that rear fire escape or that back porch. And you're going to go up to the third floor over the fire and make the grab. That happens all the time, you know? And I've done it myself, you know? And this is where that flexibility comes in with us, you know? So that's a case where even though traditionally most of our stuff gets done from the interior, this is getting done not off a ladder, but more or less you're going up an outside route to get into that floor above the fire. Well, okay, what if there's no back porch or there's no rear fire escape or whatever? Then it might be a VEIS, you know? But this is where the bosses have to be on their toes and they got to pull up and say, okay, here's the problem. What's my move? My first write-up I was in 9-engine. I was working in Mutual for a guy. Actually, I was assigned to 7 truck at the time. I was in 7 truck. I was working in Mutual for a guy in 9-engine. We got the chauffeur, the boss, and me. And we pull up and we got a good fire in the third floor rear and a woman in the front window on the third floor. The boss has to stretch the line, you know? The chauffeur has to help me throw a ground ladder. I got to go up and get her out of the window while the boss is operating the line. And even if we had an extra guy, where would he be? Helping me or helping the boss with the line? Probably helping the boss with the line, because the other alternative would be the chauffeur gets water going and then comes and helps me. This is the kind of stuff that doesn't come up in places with heavy men. The chauffeur's never leaving the pump panel. The boss is never stretching a line or operating a line. But with that scenario, even if you had 3 guys, me and the chauffeur are going to throw the ladder. The other fireman and the boss are going to stretch the line and operate the line. After the chauffeur helps me throw the ladder, he's going to go back and get water.
That's firefighter IQ. Understanding where you fit in, pivoting in the moment, and making decisions on the fly under a high stress environment. It's why you have to be into the job.
Right.
You know, you have to be.
So there's no, now this is the dilemma. This is an engine company now showing up first, but this is the dilemma for a truck boss too. Say he pulls up at that same fire, and there's an engine there, and they're getting the line stretched and everything like that. But he's got an instant rescue problem, but he's also got a top floor fire, and he's also got the rest of the apartment to search. What if he's only got 3 guys? How's that going to work?
Do your second 2 companies team up with the first 2 companies, or?
Yeah, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. They're I don't know what they do now, but I mean, in my day, you would call the surrounding companies like, hey, bro, I'm 1 and 2 tonight. So if there's any problem, I need you, and you guys have that diamond plate now, which is pretty cool. You can check around and see roll calls and who's where and who's doing what.
Which is important. I mean, that's part of studying the game,
It's very important. But my day, we didn't have that. They have it now, apparently.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, but not in my day. So everything was a phone call, where the chief would let everybody in the battalion know what was going on. Like, hey, 28 engines, 1 and 2. So if they get something, heads up.
Yeah.
They're going to need help, whatever, And now, so this can break down into so many different questions with so many different solutions, right? Say you're on an engine, 1 and 3, and you pull up at a 4-story brick H, and you got a fire on the top floor, right? 3 guys making that stretch, that's going to be a while.
Yeah.
So the engine boss might say, fuck this, I'm going to the floor below and doing a rope stretch.
Great move, and that's a move that doesn't get...
Because I can do that with 3 guys.
Yeah. I think that's a tactic that we've gotten away from it. I mean, my job still does it daily, but I think it's a great move that we overlook sometimes.
But it's another problem that has to be addressed. Yeah. When you have low manpower, it's not like, I know I have, 4 guys or 5 guys here. I know what the SOP is going to be for it. It's like,
would you guys move a guy from the truck to the engine or vice versa to balance out staffing?
Yeah. But the central point is there was no minimum staffing like you have this in your contract.
Yeah, our tour has to start with the full complement.
Right. We don't have that in our contract, So if it's vacation time and money's always a problem, they don't want to give out that overtime. They'll hand out overtime to keep a company open. Really? But they won't hand it out to keep them highly staffed. So if it's 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, that's what it is.
Can never be 1-1, obviously.
No, that's a no-go.
Do they close the companies and then send you other places for the night if you only have 2 guys or whatever?
I don't really recall that happening except in an emergency, like somebody gets hurt. Yeah. Middle of the tour, somebody gets hurt. Well, pack it in, spread the guys out. Or if the rig breaks down, there's no spares left, send everybody out, that kind of thing could happen. But I don't recall any instances of, what you might call brownouts, let's say. Now, at one point in Newark, they had companies that were browned out on 1 tour, but that was a constant. It wasn't like, oh, we just don't have enough guys tonight, close 9 engine. Yeah. That may have happened since I left. I don't know. But in my time, that didn't happen. You would keep the companies open. You would get enough overtime in to keep the companies open.
So you've been talking about engine truck, right? But it's 19 years in Rescue 1. What was your role now when you pulled up to the fire? Company's already operating. Where do you fit? Did you just put yourself to work? Or did you check in with the command post?
Normally, and this would depend somewhat on the chief, right? Normally, and this is a whole other topic too, micromanagement now by chiefs that we didn't have in the old days. But normally, we knew where to go and what to do, and we just got to work. And what would happen is, if a chief wanted us to do something specific, he'd flag us down on the way in. Or maybe his aide now that I think only the deputy has an aide, but somebody would grab you and say, hey, I need you to do this. But normally, and we could do anything. We could act as a truck. We could stretch a line. We didn't stretch a lot of lines, but it certainly happened, you know, if that's what needed to be done. But we mostly would act as a truck because, again, with that low staffing, we're a valuable resource to back up that search and make sure all of that gets done. Or, you know, I look at videos like from your job, let's say top floor fire in an H or something, and there's 20 guys on the roof. Well, in Newark, there's 20 guys at the whole fire, right? And there's only 2 guys on the roof, or maybe 4. And that's where, you know, maybe rescue now is going to be up on the roof or something, you know?
Now,
So
our role of our rescue companies in my job, which people don't realize, they're mainly there to help firemen. They're almost like the internal fast truck, if you will. Like they're in there keeping an eye on things, and when someone wants to give a mayday, they're going to be in the right position.
right.
Right.
That's all the same with us.
It's the same with me, right?
Yeah, that's all the same. And this is where guys get pissed off, rescue haters, you know. Sometimes we see problems and we have to straighten them out, you know?
No, yeah. But
You
that's
know?
the difference between, I don't know how to navigate this, but difference when you have seasoned firefighters working in rescue companies.
Yeah.
They understand where to fit in because they've had the experience.
And that's not always been the case in Newark either. That's another problem. But
As far as vetting the guys to get into the company.
yeah, you know.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
I mean, there's been too much of interference.
The rescue
You know.
has a role in a fire, and I
Right.
think there's a lot of rescue haters out there. But I am 100% in the understanding of what the rescue company's role is in a fire. Do some guys push the limits? Of course, we all want to go to fires. We want to work at fires, but there is a role for them, and I think it's been blurred over the years what that role really is, and they really are there for the betterment of the brothers and sisters on the fire floor and floors above. Like they're there to do the right thing.
And particularly in my job, where again, with the short staffing, if that engine showed up 1 and 3, and there's only like 2 guys on the line, why not give them one of our guys? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Plus, I think that what's important about the rescue company is that they are the senior guys in a lot of positions. So with us, they send guys to the roof. Well, a good rescue fireman is going to look over the probie and say, hey, brother, cut this way, not that way. Or, hey, listen, give this transmission to the chief. Give him a heads up. You know, and they want to make the probie look better. They want to make those companies look good. That's a good rescue. I think there's a role for the rescue, and obviously going down the rescue road talking about, I mean, you did 19 years in Rescue 1, you're the captain there, and then you became the SOC chief for Newark, the first standing chief, right? And how many years did you do that?
only a few.
And would you respond to every working fire as that chief?
No.
No.
No, it was much more of a staff job than a field job, because I was basically starting that up from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, it was basically my book to write.
It's pretty cool.
And I went to incidents, not fires really, but, you know, technical rescues or hazmats or stuff like that. But really, once I got into that job, the days of being concerned with actual firefighting were over, you know, because I was also like the Homeland Security guy. And you know, it just didn't involve firefighting anymore at that point.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. And I was reluctant to take the job. I was reluctant to take the promotion. I turned down battalion chief twice. And I only took it when the director said, you know, be the SOC chief, you know, start the division. But I wound up really enjoying it because I enjoyed coming up with plans and getting them into play. I enjoyed all the joint work that was involved, like with the other agencies, cops,
Yeah.
EMS, and agencies at the local, county, state, and federal level. I was talking to everybody, you know, going to meetings with everybody. And I found out I I did enjoy that. I really did enjoy it. And it was completely different from anything I was used to, you know?
What kind of training does the rescue do in Newark? You guys come over to the Rock ever, or?
No, no. I think what they do now is in Newark there's a USAR team, which is 10 engine and 5 truck, which are quartered in with the rescue. And the rescue guys go to that USAR training also. You know, the thing is, they don't want the rescue leaving the city, whereas 10 engine and 5 truck can leave the city. They can go on mutual aid with the USAR truck. Rescue can't really leave the city, you know. But that's the training anyway. If it's in the city, then there are 3 companies doing the USAR thing. If it's outside the city, it's not, you know.
So let's say Irvington gets a high angle. Is Rescue 1 going over there or no? Because it's close enough where you could probably...
Not normally, but if they were directly requested, you know, that would be up to some boss to make that determination. You know, in my days in the rescue, you know, sometimes we'd wind up out of town one way or another. You know, but I think now it might be under a little more control.
Yeah.
You know, because they do have the ability to send that USAR out without the rescue, you know, going. And they want the rescue to be available for whatever goes on in the city. So I'm okay with that. And, you know,
Now, what's the staffing in the rescue?
now they've been 1 in 5 a lot, and then they've been cut back to 1 in 4. And this goes for some of the busier companies too. And they just put on a huge Proby class in the spring, 80 something guys. That's huge for us. And I understand now companies are back up to 1 in 5. So I haven't spoken to the rescue guys in a little bit now, but they're probably one of the companies that got bumped back up to 1 in 5.
That's good. So what else you got going on? Anything else on your mind? Any hot topics?
Oh, there's always hot topics.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of what I post is due to me getting pissed off, quite frankly.
Me too. I mean,
I'll see something online, or I'll see something out in the field, or I'll hear somebody say something, and I'll be like, oh man, really? And then I got to post. That's how I started posting in the first place. As you well remember, I used to comment on other people's posts.
that's how we met, actually.
Yeah, but
Years ago, when you commented on one of my posts, I'm like, who is this guy? He's crazy. I got to meet him.
But I never posted my own shit. And one day, I just saw something that was so egregious. It's like, fuck this. I have an Instagram account. This has to be addressed, you know? So,
Do you remember what it was?
yeah, I do. It was a video, and this was, no names, but posted by a very well-known personality on Instagram who's huge in training circuits and everything. And he posts a video with a guy using a Halligan hook, or for whoever out there doesn't know, that's also called a New York hook, whatever. He's using it, and he's got the hook facing the wrong way, and he's pulling all the ceiling shit down on top of himself. And I was like, how can this guy put this up? First of all, how did it happen? You know, like in the situation that was shown on the video, how did that happen? There was a serious breakdown in training there. Absolutely egregious breakdown in training. That's 101, right? And second of all, how could this particular guy put that shit up?
So that sparked you to react. And
Yeah, I had to. I
remember this now, actually.
I couldn't let that go, you know? And that's usually the type of thing that gets me triggered to post. I see something that's just so ridiculous. And that's what I was saying at the very beginning of our talk today. with all the training and with all the knowledge and with everything we got going for us and all the social media and this and that, how come we still suck?
I think we suck because we're just not going to enough fires anymore. And that's the bottom line.
I don't know. And I know people are going to watch this podcast and say, who does he think he is? And I'll probably get a lot of flack.
I mean, brother, you are the real deal. Like you're what we all wanted to be as a child, at least for me. And I still emulate you and your generation. I mean, we talk daily. I mean, it's always the fire service. Sometimes we talk about life, but usually it's what pissed us off that day.
Yeah.
And that starts a 2-hour conversation many times. And
Yeah.
I can't believe we haven't recorded sooner because, I mean, we talk.
Well, we did
daily.
that. We did that one live one, but
Yeah, that was pretty good, actually.
yeah, but they're not archived.
No, they
like
come and go,
you know. But that was a good one. Yeah, we talked about stretching into tenements and stuff for engine company tactics.
Yeah.
But that was a good one. Too bad that didn't survive.
I think that you have to maintain the stamina of Instagram because I know it's emotional, and I know you call me like fuck this. Nobody's liking this one. No one's seeing that. Unfortunately, there's an algorithm that kind of makes it really hard to get information out sometimes, and it's a hit or miss, man.
Yeah.
It's like, but when it's on, people do see it, and when it gets off, people don't see it, unfortunately. But it's a balancing act. It's a science behind it that no one can seem to figure out. So it's trial and error. And Instagram's always changing how they distribute the information.
I took most of the summer off. I just got to the point where I almost like writer's block. I didn't have any ideas and there wasn't much going on. And I just wound up taking the summer off. And I didn't miss it. I really didn't. But I do have guys that say to me, I like your posting. I like what you say.
Absolutely.
So
it's real.
And that's,
Something
even though
that
it's
we
only a few guys that say it, it's enough to make me, okay, I'll keep posting, you know.
I think something that we've lost in the fire service is authenticity. And that's exactly what you bring to the table is being authentic, you're honest, and you're very, very good at your job. So people are probably intimidated a little bit by you, which is understandable, but because you call it how it is, man. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but you know, the thing
There's
is,
no gray area with you. It's black and white,
well, I say what I think. That's all.
and that's important.
And if you don't like it, don't hang out with me. Don't read my post. Don't call me on the phone. You know, whatever.
So I think that truly that you're timeless as far as the fire service. And I know a lot of retired guys. You've been out 20 years now. You think there's a shelf life, and for many there is.
Well,
But
I think it depends on how engaged you stay in the game.
Exactly, and you have never. Yeah, it's up and down.
I had walked away. I mean, and the real reason I did was because it hurt too much. I didn't want to go down there and watch that rescue truck leave the firehouse without me on it. I didn't want to hear about what decisions were being made and I have no part in it. I didn't want to hear about what was going on in the job and I'm not there. I had to walk away because it hurt too much, you know. But then when I had the fire, they came and got me. I mean, that fucking fire was still burning. And I was still standing out in the street in my underwear when my cell phone rang, which I grabbed on the way out of the house. And it was the guys from Newark, from the academy. Hey, man, is your house on fire? I don't know how they knew, you know. Hey, man, is your house on fire? Yeah, there's a fucking... You know, it's a fucking war. You know, we're on the way.
Wow.
You know?
You know, this goes back to everything. And I learned this from guys like yourself and like from my father and just the fire service in general. If you truly take care of it and honor it and nourish it and love it, it'll take care of you tenfold for generations to come. And the best part is that in the end, you never have to say thank you.
Yeah.
You just do the right thing, and that's the way you say, thank you, brother.
They literally came and got me and dragged me back in, you know, and I was never alone, you know. After the fire, for the first few days, I didn't go back to the house. But at one point, had to go back because the insurance adjuster was coming, and I had to be there for that, and I had to start assessing, what was going on, what's the next move, and everything like that. And I was telling one of the guys, like the night before, I was saying, yeah, I got to go meet this guy. This is really going to suck. This is the first time I'm seeing my house since the fire, and this is going to really fucking suck, So I was supposed to meet them like 9 o'clock the next morning. So the guy that I was talking to the night before calls me up about 5 to 9, and he says, what's going on? I said, well, like I said, I'm on my way over to my house to meet with the insurance adjuster and everything. I said, what are you up to? He goes, I'm sitting in front of your house waiting for you.
Brotherhood.
And I was never alone. Guys were always with me or calling me or,
Well, that's the thing with this job, and I don't think people realize it, is that you're never alone. You will never be alone if you take care of this job.
We need to this is where these kids are fucking up.
Oh, yeah, trust me.
Because
I understand completely.
They're not getting the potential of what this job can be. I mean, if I had said to the guys in Newark, brothers, I need a new house in 2 weeks, within 2 weeks, they would have built me the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that came from decades of you working in the Newark Fire Department, decades of the fire service. And so when you did the right thing the entire time, you did a little bit extra.
We had a guy that was in the rescue. He wound up as a battalion chief, but he was a fireman in rescue when I was there. He had completely gutted his kitchen, right down to the studs. There was nothing left in the fucking kitchen. And like the next day, he was going to start, bringing in the cabinets and the flooring and everything like that. Drops dead of a heart attack, 2 days later, 30 guys show up at the house with tools. They put that kitchen in a matter of days. They just did it.
And that's where we are fucking up in this job, is because this generation coming into it, I don't know if people didn't tell them the secret, how great this job is or what, but it's all about individualism. And no one's telling them that the job is bigger than you. And we have to maintain that and remember how if you take care of it, it's
the story with Bobby, a few days after the fire, he comes up, we're out having lunch. He came up to, hang out with me. And he says, the only thing I got to be careful of is I'm doing the firehouse tonight. I got to make sure I hit the road by 4. I said, can't help you, brother. I lost my watch in the fire. I don't have a watch. Takes off his watch, puts it on the table in front of me, says, now you do. Right?
nothing better than that. That's this job.
I'm at Metal Day, the one where Mickey Conboy got the Bennett. I'm at the party afterwards. I'm talking to this guy, Steve, your friend from Squad 41. I said, he's wearing a Squad 41 t-shirt, cool shirt. I had that shirt, but I lost it in the fire, Took the fucking shirt right off his back. Here you go, brother. Take this. And now he's walking around shirtless.
Yeah.
Shirtless, I still owe him a shirt, but from the pandemic and everything like that, I haven't gotten there yet. But, I didn't forget, and I owe him a shirt, and he will get it. But, that's the kind of, the shirt off your back, literally. And I got stories upon stories upon stories, and these kids don't get it.
They don't get it. And the root of it all is that if you're not all in the fire service, then no one's going to give you the shirt off their back. They might actually. You know what? I take that back. They will give you the shirt off their back still, but you'll never be part of that family. You know what I mean? Like, we're still going to take care of our brothers, but you'll never be part of the club if you just don't give a little bit extra.
The thing guys have to understand, that doesn't mean you love everybody.
No.
It's like your family, your blood family. You don't necessarily get along with everybody all the time. There's actually people you probably don't like, but they're your family. And in a crisis, you're going to come together. And it's like that in the firehouse. Well, maybe you break my balls a lot and I avoid you, or maybe I don't like the way you snore. And whatever the problem is, you know, we may not be close on a day-to-day basis, but you know, if you need blood or something, everybody's lining up, you know? I mean, I've had cases where I came out of the firehouse in the morning, my fucking car didn't start, and shit, I gotta be somewhere. So take my car, you know?
I don't think there's any other career, profession, family other than the fire service where it is like that.
Yeah.
It really is. We're all in together.
Yeah.
From the fires to the laughter in the kitchen to the tears of the funeral, we're in it together. And I think that's what we have to cultivate in the next generation. We have to teach them that and show him. Not necessarily teach them in the classroom, but maybe we can teach them by leading by example and doing the right thing. Do they think that we're losing what the right thing truly is?
Yeah, and it's a shame. I mean, I don't know how much time I have left on this planet. Probably not a whole lot, but you know, thank God I came along when I did and got to see the very best of the fire service and the very best of the firemen working in it. And I feel like, you know, these guys today, you know, I'm going to be dead and gone, right? The job will continue. The job was there before I was born. It was there before I was on the job. It's been there since I retired. But what I see now is just like I worry about my nieces. What kind of world are they going to be living in after I'm gone and after their parents are gone? I look at the fire service. What kind of world are these guys going to be living in? How's it going to be? Are they really going to just turn this into another fucking job? Period? Because one of the things about the fire service is the respect that you get from the community, right? You're not going to get that if you piss away this job. You're going to be no different than the cable guy, the UPS driver, the garbage man. You're not going to be any fucking different. And I'm not lying when I say that, you know, part of being on the job and part of who we are and what we are is that we get respect and we enjoy getting that respect, but we've earned it. We've earned it. And we like the fact that, you know, we do something for the public and they appreciate it and this and that. What is the world going to look like when firemen are just X number more of jerk-offs? They're nobody special, you know? It doesn't mean anything anymore. Why? Because you no longer put out the fires. You no longer make the rescues. You know, there are so many guys out there trying to figure out reasons not to do the job. Not to go inside that building, not to do the search, not to open the, whatever it is. There are so many guys trying to figure out ways to not do the job. Well, you're just going to be another asshole. That's all you're going to be. Nobody needs you at that point.
I think that's important. You keep writing, documenting this, podcasts like this. I think it's important because your wisdom needs to live on to keep the fire service alive. It's your generation that built the fire service, and we can't lose that. And I'm doing everything I can possible to preserve that.
You know, I don't know how it's going to go. I hope for the best. Thank God the guys that I know, they talk about other guys that don't give a shit. They talk about other houses where they have a bad attitude and everything like that. But the actual guys that I know and that I see, they still got it. They still got it. They're into their job. They're doing the right thing. And they're trying to learn, you know?
And we say good guys gravitate to great places and shit bags gravitate to shit places. But unfortunately, those shit places are growing and growing and growing.
That's what I'm afraid of. You know, that's what I'm afraid of. I've been so lucky, both during my time on the job and in my time after the job with the friends I have, because the friends I have are very literally the cream of the crop of the fire service. You know, I'm not a name dropper and I'm not going to sit here and drop names, but I've been so lucky to know the people that I know and to be allowed into their lives and into their world, and to have them, over the years share the knowledge with me. And it's just been incredible. I feel bad for guys who don't get,
Yeah.
it's,
I go through my text messages or my missed calls, my outgoing calls, my emails, and I'm like, I really had this guy on my phone? Like, and it's crazy to me. The true legends of the fire service, and how I got connected with everyone, I really don't know. It just naturally happened. It's something you can't force. It's just a natural progression of loving the job. And then again, people gravitate to certain places that are very, very sincere and that are very real. And that's how we met. We just gravitated to each other on Instagram, and that was years ago. And
I mean, I never finished my degree, but I have college. I didn't finish my degree for a couple different reasons. But anyway, I have college credits and everything like that. That's where I met a tremendous number of guys from different departments and made lifelong friends. And we're still friends now. We're old men,
yeah,
but we're still friends now. All these guys from all over the place. And that's what I tell the young guys I know. If you don't want to go to college, just go to classes. Go here, go there. Go where like-minded firefighters are, and network with these people and stay in touch with them, because you know what's going to happen. Today, you're all backstep firemen, relatively new on the job. In 20 years, you're all going to be running your departments, and you're going to be able to call up that guy that you met 20 years ago, who's now a high-ranking chief someplace, and say, "Hey, brother, what's," and there you have it,
You said it earlier, networking.
Yeah.
It's a real thing in the fire service. And my advice to any young firefighter is that take advantage of every opportunity. I just told one of my young guys who was talking about doing something. I said, my advice to you is never say no to anything this job is willing to offer you. If it's a class you're not really into, who cares? Go and take it. Learn something. But on top of it, you're meeting people. Our job's so big, but yet it's so small. And the more you get out there, you realize how small the job really is. Guys that do 20 years in the firehouse and never leave, there's something to that too. That's important. But the fire service is so big and it's so amazing. So just take advantage of every opportunity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a very unique job in that we know guys from literally all over the world.
Yeah.
The guy that fixes my car doesn't know mechanics from all over New Jersey and all over the country and from England and all, right? The guy who does my taxes doesn't know, they may have their annual accountant convention where they all go get loaded and laid. But it's not the same is my point, Like on any given day of the week, I could be talking to a guy from the West Coast or a guy from the Midwest or a guy from anywhere. And we're not just hooking up at the annual convention. We're friends. We're always in contact periodically. And that's what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference.
It all comes from loving the job.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond loving it, it comes from being in love with it.
Yeah.
You have to be passionate. You have to have compassion, and you have to have loyalty and respect for it.
And you don't have to be a buff, and you don't have to get promoted. You can look at Bobby. That guy's contributed more to the fire service almost than anybody I know. Not almost, more than anybody I know, nationally and globally. And I know guys like that from your job, from my job, and from other departments, that they are literally keystone members of the fire service. Never got promoted for whatever reason. They're on the back step for whatever reason. But the fire service would literally not be what it is today without those guys.
We need to preserve that.
Yeah.
Document it and keep it alive. How do we do it? I don't know. I think we do it from doing these podcasts, from you writing on your Instagram, from you maybe even writing articles or getting out and teaching. I don't know. I twist your arm in that often, but I think it's something that there's so much value into your wisdom, and I think that we need it. I know I need it because I'm bouncing ideas off you constantly. But
And I enjoy that. You know, I really haven't been teaching since the pandemic. Pandemic changed my whole lifestyle.
yeah,
And I really haven't been doing it anymore. But I love to give and take. You know, I love the phone conversations at all hours of the day and night. Well, not all hours of the day, because you know my routine.
yeah.
All hours of the night. But, you know, I love when guys call me up and they just want to talk fire or whatever. You know, it's great. It's great.
It's that common love, like you said. It's
Yeah.
global. It's a common love.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for coming on, and
My pleasure.
we have a lot to talk about, so we will be doing this often.
I hope.
I know we have some ideas we want to jump into in the tactical
Yeah.
side of things, which we'll do that.
Yeah. Zero in more specifically on
Yeah.
certain topics.
Peaked roof, private dwelling, venting, running on the fire ground, 2 topics that I know we both are passionate
Yeah.
about. We'll jump into that next time.
Get to them, yeah.
Yeah, but again, thank you, brother. I love you. I really do.
Well, too.
So,
My pleasure, bro.